The Minnesota Vikings season continues to do a complete 180 after they started their season 5-0. Not only did they lose to the Los Angeles Rams to drop to 5-2 and lose 2 consecutive games, but it is now being reported by Adam Schefter that Minnesota Vikings superstar left tackle, the best offensive lineman on the Minnesota Vikings, will miss the rest of the season with the knee injury that he suffered against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. Wow, this sucks. Minnesota Vikings, everything was looking up. Super Bowl contenders, number 1 on power rankings podcasts everywhere, or number 2 on ESPN. And they dropped 2 in a row, and now they're without their amazing offensive lineman, Christian Darrisaw, who just has been dazzling all season long. I mean, take a look at this block that he had last weekend against the Detroit Lions. This is what we're missing right here. Look at this block by Darrisaw. Boom, blows up that stunt. Boom, stops the guy from coming on the other side. Beautiful pass protection. Sam Darnold, who needs all the help that he can get. He's been good this year. He's had his best career as best season during his NFL career. But now without Christian Darrisaw, things get shaky really, really, really fast. The Minnesota Vikings are already on the verge of being the last place team in the NFC North because the North is so stacked. And now they're without their best offensive lineman. The discussion that was happening last night was, why did Kevin O'Connell run a play with 35 seconds left, tied ball game, Minnesota Vikings at their own 3-yard line? Well, here's why. The Los Angeles Rams got the ball to start the second half. And if the Minnesota Vikings could burst a 10 to 15 yard run and move the sticks, which Aaron Jones has proven a lot of times this season that he can do, you still got 3 timeouts. You don't need that much yardage, and you can be up by 3 going into halftime. That's a big 3 points, especially because the Minnesota Vikings failed to move the ball in the second quarter. You don't want to take a knee there either, because then you bring up the possibility of a safety. So things like this happen. That's why it's called football. That's why it's one of the most physical games that is out there. And now the Minnesota Vikings need to shift directions. And David Quessenberry is the guy that filled in for Christian Darrisaw. He's 34 years old. But Dalton Reisner comes back somewhat soon, next week, maybe the week after that. And there's some shifting that could happen on the offensive line. Do you want to bring in Quessenberry to fill in the role for Darrisaw? Or do you want to shift Brandel to left tackle, sub Dalton Reisner in at left guard, and let's see what the Minnesota Vikings offense can do? One thing that Christian Darrisaw is praising the good Lord for this morning, hopefully he's a Christian, is that he got paid this past offseason. Not that he wouldn't get paid following this injury if he put together a good season, but knowing that he's going to miss the rest of this year, he has to at least feel much better, or at least way more comfortable, knowing he signed a big contract extension before the year started. And he could have gambled. Darrisaw could have went into the season and bet on himself that he would be the best left tackle in all of football, because he's pretty close to it already, and made even more money next year. But then you risk injury. Justin Jefferson did that. He gambled. He bet on himself. He got hurt, but it's only a hamstring injury, and then he got paid. But Darrisaw is right now praising the good name that is above any other name, that is Jesus, that he signed his contract extension last offseason so that he is guaranteed a lot of money, even though he's going to be hurt. So good for Darrisaw for that, but unfortunately for Darrisaw, the injury will knock him out and most likely eliminate any potential chances the Minnesota Vikings had at a Super Bowl run, which I wasn't buying all season long anyway. So I was never sold on the Vikings as Super Bowl contenders, and this might just be the icing on the cake that puts the Minnesota Vikings out of their misery. Unfortunately, this is not a good thing. Obviously, you're missing your best offensive lineman in years, and he's out for the rest of the year. The goal is get him back next year. J.J. McCarthy, QB1. Let's go. Super Bowl next year. As we always say in Minnesota, there's always next year.